Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
I'm Millie Weaver, joined here with Michael Zimmerman. Well, as many of you guys know, Memorial Day weekend is this weekend. And many kind of confuse Veterans Day with Memorial Day. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day. We know that Veterans Day is to celebrate, pay homage to anybody who ever enlisted in the Army, whether in wartime or not. Whereas Memorial Day is to pay honor and memorial to these veterans that fought during wartime and gave their life for our rights, our constitutional rights, our Bill of Rights, and our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, and so on and so forth that we hold so dear today. So I wanted to kind of start off with this article from Huffington Post. Apparently, Huffington Post doesn't understand how the First Amendment works. Their writer, Zeba Blay, blasted Vice President Mike Pence on Monday for perverting the idea of free speech itself. She said during his commencement address at University of Notre Dame that he was saying that free speech was protecting hate speech, and you know how these SJWs are. They think that hate speech should not be protected under the First Amendment. What do you think about that, Michael?
I think hate speech in the first place is not a thing. You have speech out there that is offensive potentially, but people still have the right to say it. There's certain things like yelling fire in a movie theater that are not acceptable because it can cause panic or making death threats against people. But the so-called hate speech is a term that's being applied now to anything that people disagree with, which on these liberal college campuses and in these SJW havens like California and New York, where it's almost all liberals, they turn everything conservatives say into hate speech, which is why I don't even think it's a legitimate thing.
That's right. They want to have hate speech classified in the same category that you would harassment or death threats or so on and so forth, so that you could actually be criminally charged for saying something that they say is hate speech. Well, it's a downhill battle from there. It's a tumbling slope.
Slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope right there, because what happens is it becomes a matter of people's opinion, and then everyone's opinion can be different. And next thing you know, somebody's saying something is hate speech that it's not even intended to be hate
and whatever
speech.
political party ends up in charge then, or whatever the establishment is at the time, they're determining what is hate speech and what is going to be suppressed. So I don't want to start going down this path while we have a conservative government, because then when we have a liberal government again in the future, we're going to end up with this issue where they're going to crack down on any conservative speech. Things like Infowars, it's going to be shut down. It's going to be everything we say here, tonight's nightly news, the Alex Jones show, all of that's going to be shut down because we are hate speech.
That's right. You know, they're just going to use hate speech to censor news that they don't like, that they don't want to get out. And that's why we've seen that, you know, Sean Hannity actually has been coming under some trouble right now. USAA is the latest company to pull its advertising from Sean Hannity's show. Well, USAA is a financial services company that typically caters to military men and their families, or military women and their families. And next thing you know, they pulled their advertising from the Sean Hannity show because it was not in line with, you know, the political opinions that they wanted to be associated with. And, you know, other companies started doing this as well. This is what Sean Hannity said. He said, "To all my friends, today George Soros and Hillary Clinton supported Media Matters is targeting all of my advertisers to try and get me fired."
This is something that they've started doing after they lost the election. They were so sure that Hillary was going to win. And when she didn't, they decided, oh, let's go after conservative or libertarian media outlets financially. So they went after Breitbart. They went after Infowars. We had the whole thing with our ad roll getting pulled, costing Infowars a significant sum of money. And they pulled Kellogg's from Breitbart because these people, they have them all send emails and, you know, express their concern that these advertisers are supporting hate groups. Infowars isn't a hate group. Breitbart's not a hate group. Sean Hannity is not a hate group. We're telling the truth, and if it's inconvenient to you or offends you, That's your issue. But to go after these organizations, funding, it's obviously effective. And that's the only reason they're doing this.
Exactly. It's a way of censorship. And, so it's important to know that these, rights that we have, the First Amendment, people died for those rights. They laid down their life to go and protect those rights. So why should we so easily let these SJWs, who most of them are a bunch of crying, whiny babies that live in their parents' basements, they don't understand what it is to actually go out there and risk your life or sacrifice your life for somebody else's rights. So we can't let them do that. We have to continue to fight for those rights and pay homage to those who died for our rights.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to we have a clip here where this investigative report I did a couple years back about the Los Angeles Veterans Home over in LA, where a lot of the land, the facilities, they were getting looted and misappropriated to where you had over 20,000 homeless veterans on the streets of Los Angeles. And meanwhile, they had this huge, massive acreage land and all these buildings that they could have been housed in, but the VA was misusing that land. I mean, it's so horrible that we have these veteran suicide rates that are so high.
22 a day on average.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do with that? That's absolutely horrible. And when they actually have a home, a veteran's home, that they're being blocked from going into, so that one of the examples was so that valet parking could be put on that land from a Beverly Hills golf course.
That's more important than homeless veterans. We shouldn't house them. We should have valet parking there.
They had major motion picture studios having lease agreements for $1 a year so they can go film movies on there, hold little special events with celebrities going on there, little private fairs. They had a dog park for Beverly Hills people to come and walk their dogs and, on the veterans' land. Meanwhile, they built giant cages around this land to keep veterans out. You actually had homeless veterans sleeping on the outside of these cages, and it's absolutely horrible to be treating our veterans this way. So let's go ahead and roll to this clip, and then we'll be coming right back. We'll be back with Michael Zimmerman. So let's roll. On April 9th, 1865, the Civil War ended at Appomattox Courthouse in Virginia, after more than 600,000 Union and Confederate soldiers lost their lives. Of the remaining 1.5 million plus veterans, along with the 80,000 veterans from previous conflicts, tens of thousands of veterans were in desperate need of medical treatment, housing, and employment. In 1865, during his second inaugural address, President Abraham Lincoln appealed to Congress and the nation on behalf of these soldiers to address this problem.
To care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan.
Becoming the motto for the then Veterans Administration. In March 1865, the National Homes for Disabled Volunteer Soldiers, which resulted in establishing 11 permanent national homes between 1865 and 1930. Similar programs cropped up in the southern states for the Confederate veterans. In 1886, the Texas Confederate Home was established in Austin, Texas, which housed hundreds of Confederate veterans. In 1888, the Pacific branch of National Homes for Disabled Volunteer Soldiers was established in West Los Angeles, California. John P. Jones and Arcadia DeBaker patriotically deeded over 400 acres of pristine West Los Angeles land to be permanently maintained as a national home for veterans.
Carolina Winston Berry is the great-great-niece of one of the landowners.
This was a fully functional city within the county of Los Angeles. It had everything. Its own post office, 150 acres under cultivation, orange trees all over the place. You can't see an orange tree anymore.
However, a lot has happened since then.
Government documents show that the West Los Angeles VA has made millions of dollars renting out chunks of its property to private enterprises.
During the early part of the Vietnam War, construction began on the Interstate 405, which is part of California's major highway system. A section of the 405, once known as the Sepulveda Freeway, now Sepulveda Boulevard, cuts through the veterans' property. This stretch of road is named after the Sepulveda family of San Pedro, California, who in 1784 were issued a Spanish land grant by King Carlos III. Very close to this section of land and on the veterans' property is where the drills for the Sawtell oil field are located. Tell us about the oil that's been found on the veterans' land and what's going on. Is that oil going to the veterans?
Not at all. Thank you for asking. This was a gift. First of all, two families. They opened the first veterans home after the Civil War era for disabled homeless veterans. This land was selected. And it's so amazing. There's an oil well on this property. And to make sure that this would always be funded, at least, there's an oil well. The royalties don't go to the VA, they go to the Department of Interior. The Department of Interior gets the royalties, not the VA.
Though the veterans were duly entitled to both the surface and mineral rights through Mulholland water projects, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power has the water rights. Maps reveal that the Sepulveda Channel, which runs subterranean along the once Sepulveda Freeway, now 405, is a major waterway. While soldiers fought overseas, the 405 was built over veterans' land. Through the use of federal funds for state highway projects, the Department of Interior ultimately subrogated the Sawtell oil field. Even though the oil field had been duly vested to the veterans in the original deed of 1888.
UCLA has a baseball diamond in there, a state of the art. If we would take care of our veterans in the manner that UCLA has a baseball diamond on here, we would be the proudest people.
The VA has designated 3 vacant buildings on the West LA campus to be converted to housing poor disabled homeless vets. They announced that in 2007, though they took no action. In 2010, the agency announced they would spend $20 million rehabbing one of those buildings. It was supposed to open this year. They have yet to break ground.
Senator Feinstein and Congressman Waxman have never appropriated $1 for one blanket for one homeless veteran. And because the pressure has been put onto them through the ACLU lawsuits, they recently appropriated $20 million to rehab one of those rat-infested buildings, have about 55 rooms that will house 65 veterans a year and a half from now. We have 20,000 out here. This is their little tokenism, and if you just do the simple math, it's close to $400,000 a room. You can buy them a home. The list goes on of people who have leases in here, privileged leases to supposedly offset the expense of running the VA. What we have back here is there's 21 acres leased to the Brentwood School with a sweetheart deal. Brentwood School is one of the wealthiest private schools, $30,000 a year for grade school through high school. They have tennis courts, they have swimming pools, they have virtually everything back here. It's a athletic field, playground, and up above is was supposed to be the Veterans Golf Course. A couple years ago, $200,000 in green fees were embezzled. $1 billion piece of property rent-free. That's all right. That's all right.
Filming. Who's this?
It's okay. That's Parks and Recreation. This is classic of what's going on here. This is veterans land. You got a guy from Parks and Recreation, a paid employee of the government, city government, and they're snooping around at us. I just hope America wakes up.
Well, it is so unacceptable how our veterans are being treated in America. But, you know, I'm here with Michael Zimmerman, who has something very special to show us.
This is what they call a blood chit. And this particular one is actually from a pilot that was a POW during Vietnam. And this was a promise from the United States government to anyone who is their captors, saying, we will take care of you. We will rescue you if necessary. Where is the care? Where's the help for these veterans once they come home? It seems like it doesn't exist. So this Memorial Day, that's something people need to think about and consider. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this short break with more special reports.
During this Memorial Day, I want to thank the veterans that have fought, but of course, most importantly, those that have died, because that's what this holiday and remembrance is all about, is those that made the ultimate sacrifice for the belief they were building a better world. Didn't mean every war was good, didn't mean they didn't get conned, didn't mean they didn't get used. But I'm here to tell you, they were at least people that were willing to stand up for something. And that's worlds apart from so many of the trendies and globalist wannabes and minions of the establishment that want to take the easy road. Take advantage of these unprecedented specials and help support the tip of the spear in the fight against the globalists while supplies last. Our highest quality, name brand, silver bullet that we private label is already the highest quality and lowest price of what we sell it at. And I've never offered it as a loss leader like I'm about to do at 65% off retail right through next Tuesday. Super Male Vitality's been sold out for months, our #1 best-selling product. I normally just give 25% off. We are doing 30% off Super Male Vitality out of the gates through next Tuesday. Survival Shield, high quality, true nascent iodine, deep earth crystal source, has been sold out. We never offer it at 40% off. It's offered at 40% off for a limited time to, again, celebrate our patriots and celebrate those that died in the service of this great republic. Brain Force, now with 20% more in each bottle, is 47% off. We've, again, never offered it at that. It's a bestseller. It's been sold out. Why am I discounting it? Because I know it's a tough economy out there. I know the globalists have been trying to stop the Trump recovery. And I know this is a powerful product. And so if you try it, I think you're going to continue to want to buy it. Especially if you sign up for auto ship, that's an additional 10% off. When you add that in to 65% off Silver Bullet, it is a loss leader then for sure. You add that to the 30% off Super Male, that's 40% off. You add that to Survival Shield at 40%, that's 50% off. You add that to Brain Force at 47, that's 57% off. You add that to Secret 12 at 43%, our vitamin B12 methylcobalamin, that is 53%. Knockout is at 50%, our sleep aid, that's 60%. We've never offered it at that. And all Infowars Trump shirts are 75% off retail as well to get the word out. These are the biggest sales ever on these items. You add auto ship, several of these are loss leaders. So for myself and the entire Infowars crew, I salute you and thank you for all your prayers and all your support on this Memorial Day. Hope everybody has a safe weekend coming up. We are at that crossroads.